Nocti after the Noctilux, not naughty, which I
Not
get
naughty.
quite a bit.
It's my
They're
Australian
like,
accent.
naughty girl.
Not the
What kind of
girl.
channel is that? It's about photography, I swear.
Yeah, there you go. What's your message or what's your learnings for anyone wanting to get into photography or YouTubing or anything like that?
Not just for photography or YouTube, for anything that anyone wants to accomplish, start today. Just start. Just don't think. Because I'm a pretty OCD person myself. I'm a big planner. If I don't have plans, for something that I want to do, I usually don't do them until my plan is pretty solid. But usually that means I don't get to do them until, a long time later.
Yeah.
And um, from COVID and friends passing away and stuff like that, I've learned that our tomorrows are never guaranteed, right? Like we live as if we have forever on this earth, but that's not true. I could go out on the street and then something happens to me, right? And like it's your life is not guaranteed. And I've realized I definitely don't want to be on the last day of my life and regretting things not happen, because I didn't take action or because I was lazy or because I didn't finish planning something. So, I was waiting for the perfect day to start this thing, but I never got it started. So anything that anyone wants to do, start today and then you'll figure out the rest later, would be my message. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, thank you for having me on the call. I'm so flattered that you're interested in my story.
I think I remember when you got your first Noctilux 0.95,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
excited you were. So I think what drew me to your channel and particularly you was your enthusiasm and your quirkiness, I think, in the way you do stuff. And I think that makes you very interesting, but it also makes your content very interesting as well.
Thank
And
you.
the other thing I liked was, I guess you studied photography, and therefore you do quite a bit of research in preparation for your videos as well. So that
Yes.
the quality there as well. So
Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'll share my story,
yeah.
which will explain how I got into all this.
Oh, just a quick note while you're watching this video, I'm not sure whether you knew, but I'm associated with a number of companies, and those companies can provide discounts to my viewers and subscribers. So all you need to do is go to adventurate.com.au, just click on the website. Yes, just go shop discounts and you find all the different companies that I'm associated with. So for example, SwiftX, so you can set up a crypto exchange and get $10 worth of free Bitcoin. iTECHWORLD for camping, lithium batteries, backup systems for your home. REDTIGER for dash cams, BOUNUS electric bikes, and all sorts of different discount levels are available, and there are discount codes associated with each one of those, whether it be Adventure Aid or something else. So just go to the website. I hope you can take advantage of the discounts, and back to the video.
Yeah.
I grew up traveling a lot because of my parents work. So I used to travel with them quite a bit. And when I used to travel with them, I would always have a camera with me. And it wasn't like a professional camera. It could be like a point and shoot or like a disposable camera. Um, and I found myself always trying to adapt to new environments, um, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures. And but in a way, I always felt like an outsider, right? Because I'm always traveling and meeting new people. So in a way, the camera was my excuse to get to know people, to start conversations, like the icebreaker, like saying, "Hey, I have a camera. I'm a photographer. Like, why don't you guys like get together? Let me take pictures of you guys, and I'll send you guys photos." So that's how I started actually. And when I would come back home, I would get my film developed and I would send them actual prints. Like, hey, remember me? Like I met you 2 weeks ago or a month ago at this place and here are the photos I took. And that's how I maintained this friendship. And so come high school, I was in video production. I was, you know, really determined to tell stories, and I was just so sucked into like the storytelling aspect of photography and filmmaking. So I was in that, and then I went to the University of Southern California, got my degree in photography and a minor in cinematic arts. Um, and so it's always been the storytelling aspect of photography rather than just like the image itself or something
Yeah.
like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the year I graduated, it like it was really bad in terms of finding a job, a good job. The company that I interned at, and fortunately I was able to work there after I graduated. I think they were having some financial struggles, so they would not put me on salary. And though I was returning day after day for like months, I was not getting paid.
Nothing.
And nothing. And I was a little photo assistant for the in-house photographer at this pretty renowned fashion company at the time in Los Angeles. Okay.
Mm.
And my boss actually told me, hey, Charlize, you should keep coming back just to make sure that they will pay you eventually. Because if I don't go back, then I might just never see that money. Right. And so I kept doing that for 6 months. And finally I was like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I need to get paid. And it's been 6 months. It's supposedly my first job out of college, but it hasn't been a good experience, right?
Mm.
um so then I quit that place. I found another job. I was working as a jewelry photographer, but it was really far from where I was living, and I was not getting paid enough to move there in Malibu, California, one of the most expensive cities in Southern California. So then I stumbled across this job in the international trade in shipping industry, and that's where I got stuck in for 15 years. So your story and my story actually are very similar because I was in the corporate world as well for 15 years until COVID. Um, and I had a few friends that passed away. I had a friend that actually committed suicide and passed.
Um,
And he was one of the most optimistic people I knew. Always smiles, always so encouraging. And I just could not believe he took his own life. So that really got me thinking, like, what am I doing with my own life? And what am I doing in the corporate world? I don't even like this, like I'm only here for a paycheck, right?
mm.
I want to make a difference. I want to have meaning in my life. I want to produce meaning with my artwork.
Yeah.
And so last year, I finally quit my corporate job officially and started pursuing photography full time. But before that, I was shooting also weddings and events for like 10 years. But I got really burnt out doing it. Because I still had my full-time job Monday through Friday, and
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays I would shoot weddings and events because they paid well. And I thought, well, I was still doing photography things, and I was still being a little bit creative. And on top of that, I was making good money, right? I had double income. I was buying all the Leica goodies that I could. Just, but I shot Canon for the longest time when I was doing weddings.
Yeah.
So I did that, but I got really burnt out because at the end of the whole thing, I felt like I was like a robot. I was like just a technician because I would show up to the weddings and the events, knowing what clients liked and, knowing what they expected. So I would get the same shots just with different people at different settings.
Yeah.
And one day I was like, not gonna do this anymore. It doesn't have meaning to me anymore. So I stopped that. Um, and yeah, so last year I restarted my YouTube really. I first started back in 2016 when I bought my Noctilux. I was so happy that I started the channel like, oh, like talking about my Noctilux and stuff like that. But then um I got sucked back into the corporate world, just doing my job, right? So like the YouTube thing was really a hobby plus my photography. Um, so yeah, it wasn't really until last year that I started pursuing this more fully.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big decision because, I guess when you have the corporate job, at least it keeps the food on the table,
Exactly.
wine glass full.
Exactly.
Going full time. How are you finding it?
It's really scary. It's so scary. I mean, I had my benefits, right? In addition to my salary, I had all my benefits and my 401k and my retirement and stuff like that. And now I'm just I'm basically using my savings to fund everything. Um, but I am fortunate enough that I have a background in design, so I could help people build websites and make marketing pieces. But I haven't really found a way to make money doing photography directly, like just shooting, if I don't do weddings and events. So it's quite challenging. And I was hoping that YouTube could provide maybe not like a direct stream of income, but at least provide some ideas as I go through this journey. Meeting people and seeing what other people are doing. Um, but yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah, look, making money. That's interesting. We're going to be flying all over the agenda because that was one of the items that I had on the agenda as well.
Right, right,
Well, why don't we tackle that? Because I think that is an issue for all photographers.
for
And,
sure.
like you with the wedding photography, that was predictable money.
Right,
It's like real estate, when something gets sold, then everybody gets paid. So when there's a wedding, then they fork out all the money and everybody involved gets paid. So it's really clear cut.
right,
And now, with technology and the internet and everything, and the expectation that everything's for free, any content creator, any musician, any creative, basically is doing everything for free, and it's very hard to
exactly.
get paid. And then with AI, AI provides a whole bunch of advantages for creators, like you and I.
Right,
So the tools that we use are much simpler now to use, and we can produce even better content all the time. But again, nobody wants to pay for it. So that's a real dilemma. So we're all in the same boat of, well, how do you get ahead? How do you make money? And I guess in my own mind, you have to sort of be jack of all trades.
exactly,
And
exactly.
um, and I think probably my biggest thing that I had to sort of get over was that there wasn't necessarily a direct link between taking a photograph and getting paid anymore.
Right, right.
Everything
I mean,
become
unless if you're selling stock image, but then you're only making pennies doing that, I feel like.
yeah,
Right?
that's true. And also, even in the stock images, like I suppose they can put a thumbnail, not a whatever, when they put a signature over the photograph to stop
Oh,
people.
like your watermark or
Watermark,
something.
yeah, that's it. You can put water, obviously,
Yeah,
stock images, they put watermarks over it, but still, people just do screenshots and
exactly.
your image goes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, so I find that even with my YouTube channel, following following people like Peter McKinnon, he must be sort of the utopia of for photographers
Right.
on YouTube, and so unless you've got millions of viewers and subscribers, and and you watch these people, and they obviously have employees and everything, and they're making a load of money, but I guess
Right.
a lot of stress goes with that as well. You have to be really super organized person. You're talking face, you're
Definitely.
talking head, but then you're CEO of your organization, and you have to be
Exactly.
managing people, and there's all this stuff happening in the background that people just don't see.
Exactly.
So I think everyone, what I found with YouTube, okay, maybe going back as a photographer, in the old days, you'd print stuff, you put stuff in photo albums. Now
Right.
you create stuff, it goes on a computer, you never see it again.
Right.
So one of the motivations behind YouTube was it's an avenue for me to showcase my work, whether it be video or
Mm-hmm.
whether it be stills, whatever. I think because I think if I look at in my house and over the years, probably only had about one or two prints up on the wall ever.
Mm.
What do you find that? Find that yourself or?
For sure. Because I'm actually pursuing my fine art photography, um, so I am printing a lot more now.
Yeah.
But then, and before I started coming back to all of this, yes, like yourself, I rarely printed stuff out anymore. Though, um, as the photographer in the family, I'm like the family historian, right? And every time when we go on a family trip or we have family gatherings, like it's Charlize with her camera, right? Like Charlize needs to take the family photo, and then everybody would be like, "Hey, where's the photo?" Right?
Mm.
Um, so in that sense, for the family, I do print a lot and I would make photo albums for them when we go on family trips and stuff. Um, but actually printing out work to hang on the wall, I rarely do that for
Yeah.
myself, which is quite a shame.
Yeah. I guess we have to just go with the modern times. Let's understand it's all electronic these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just finishing off on the making money, what I found was that through the YouTube channel and growing the channel and obviously increasing subscribers, um,
Mhm.
inevitably, and by reaching out to people, unusual circumstances happen. So the ad revenue on my YouTube is, bugger all. Um, for disclosure, I think it works out about 200 Australian dollars a month. Well,
Oh,
that's still
yeah.
something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, but what I found was that a few companies would reach out to me for whatever reason, or because of my
Right.
activity. So, for example, my four-wheel drive activities in Outback Australia, and I managed to sort of make connections with a company that makes lithium power stations, batteries for
Oh,
campers and stuff
okay.
like that. So I needed one for my camper anyway, and then I mentioned that I was a YouTube content creator, and then we have an alliance with them. So then they can provide a discount code, which then I give to my subscribers and my viewers.
Right.
They use a discount code, then the company can track sales, and then I can actually earn commission from
That's
indirectly
pretty cool.
from other suppliers. So I've got from my website on adventure8.com.au, I've now got a tab there called, discounts, shopping discounts, and then all the
Hmm.
alliances and affiliates that I have where they've given me a
Hmm.
discount code, then people can use that. Uh,
Right.
they get an extra discount by using it. Then the sales can be tracked, and then sometimes I can get commission from those suppliers as well.
Right. Right.
So that's what I mean by with photography now and content creation, you basically have to have many irons in the fire uh, indirectly, and that
Exactly.
most of that income will come from indirect activities, that have
Right.
originated from you doing some video or taking a photograph.
Right. Right. Definitely.
So,
It's extremely difficult nowadays to just sell prints, right? Or make albums and
yeah,
sell photo books for a living, right?
yeah,
Um, like I do YouTube, hoping that I could somehow earn money from doing it. Maybe not directly from YouTube, or, maybe people might discover me through YouTube so that I could fund my fine art photography, which is extremely expensive to do. Because I have to print everything, I frame everything. When I am actually invited to exhibit my work, I have to pay for shipping my work to them too, Then I have to ship my own work back. Um, so I am like discovering the challenges of doing this and really just wondering how much longer I could keep up with it, without like really making enough money to cover all of this.
I look forward to seeing your journey. Look, I know it's really difficult. I have some painting artist friends, and
Hmm.
same thing. They have to just keep on painting, um,
Right.
create their collection, set up, go hire a studio or whatever, exhibit their work, have events,
Uh-huh.
and then I think the studio usually takes 50% or something like that on the sale.
Uh-huh.
It's a normal
Right.
process from your experience.
It depends on the gallery, and your negotiation with them, right? It ranges from like 30 to maybe 60%.
Yeah,
But then after you take let's say 50% is what you agreed on.
yeah,
After you take your 50%, sometimes you have to pay for shipping your work somewhere.
yeah. It's a lot of costs involved.
Exactly. Then you're just like, wow, I did all that work and I just made pennies on this.
Yeah, I guess that's where the corporate scene comes in as well, isn't it? Your
Exactly.
other activities. But anyway, that's life. You have to sort of balance things out as you go forward as well.
Exactly.
While we're on the subject of money, and this we're sort of going towards another point in IT and tech, has crypto, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and that sort of stuff, and tokenization of images and content. Is that something has that you've been interested in at all, or you thought about?
Nope. Nope. I definitely have looked into them just so that I know what they are and what they mean. Um, but because of the type of photography I do, like in terms of my fine art photography, and I always stress on the storytelling, the human aspect of storytelling. Um, AI, crypto, NFTs, I mean, they just seem so fake. They're intangible, right? So one of these days, if we lose power or if we don't have the internet anymore, like what happens to them? Like your work is just gone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I've been into crypto for a few years now, from an investment
okay.
point of view. But then I've also been trying to understand, okay, bit of background. Been from the corporate scene, I've been in technology all the time. And so that's basically how I've made my money. And, the thought was if I could stay abreast of technology, regardless of what's going on, be at the sort of the forefront of technology, then
Hmm.
you reap the rewards as you put in the activity and research and whatever. So
Yeah.
um, with the trend that everything's going for free, and I think from an internet perspective and creative perspective, there's been this constant work of trying to work out how to monetize all the free content. So if we look at
Right.
how music has gone from paying for a song to free and streaming and everything, and
Right.
and artists now, musicians, realizing that they can't just rely on producing music to sell, but it's producing music to create a brand so that when they go and do events, they get paid by doing the events, the actual
Right.
experience and stuff like that. So,
Right.
and then where crypto comes into it is, and NFTs is, then it's associated with a ticketing associated with those events as a way of tracking who's going and who's allowed to go. So there's
I
a,
see.
a payment system that goes with that as well. So
Gotcha.
there's a thing called tokenization of real assets. So
Uh-huh.
particularly with fine art, for example, you create the
Mm-hmm.
fine art, but then there's an element like with, with painting and stuff, there's authentication of that painting and its
Mm-hmm.
history and its lineage of ownership and stuff like that. And that's where the crypto side comes in to link with the real asset.
I see.
So in the future with your fine artwork, for example, to prove that it's an original and that it's
Mm-hmm.
one print of 5, for example, that
Right.
there is an associated NFT. So the value of that art piece is guaranteed or is qualified by someone owning both the physical asset and the
Mm-hmm.
NFT that proves that it's ownership.
I see.
But that's where that might come in. You're right. If it's just an image on an NFT, well, you can make billions of those and it makes no difference.
Right.
But it's a way of authenticating the ownership of the real asset.
Right.
Becomes
Understood.
more interesting. Anyway, that's maybe something for you to investigate
To
over
think
time.
about, for sure, for sure.
Going back to the very beginning, where did Leica come into the story for you?
Well, so back in college, actually at my college, we're all shooting like Canon or Nikon gear, right? And we could rent these gear for free. I mean, not for free, because we pay for our education here, and
Yeah.
it's pretty expensive in the US. But definitely we weren't shooting Leicas or anything like that. So this professor mentioned about the I guess one of the very first lenses that had two aspherical elements in the lens, and they were both hand polished. And somehow I had that stuck in my head, thinking, "Wow, like that's so cool! Like they were able to do that in the '60s and hand polished. Like how do you even hand polish lens elements, right?" Um, so that got stuck in my head, and so the Noctilux became the holy grail, right? For me, at least. Until I graduated from college and I realized how expensive the lens was. I was like, oh gosh, wow, the value of Leica goods have just increased dramatically over the years. Um, so like an original 1.2 Noctilux nowadays, I don't know, maybe they're like 50, 60 or more $1,000.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then I came across the 0.95, which was pretty new back then, and I was like, oh, 0.95, it's even faster than than the 1.2. So then I tried it in the store and I really liked it. So I bought it. But before I bought the Noctilux, my first Leica camera was the Deluxe 3. Um, so that was years before I got the Noctilux. Just to say that I own a Leica, but I couldn't really afford any real Leica gear like an M or anything like that. I got a Deluxe 3,
Yeah.
which was like, I don't know, $1,200 at the time. Um, it was very expensive for me because I actually bought it in when I was still in college, right? So it was a big deal, and I was like, oh wow, like I'm so cool. I'm shooting Leica now, with my cool Deluxe 3,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I still have that camera. That was my very first Leica before I actually jumped into the M system. and now it's at the point of no return. For M bodies, still just one lens to use on the four bodies.
Really, just 0.95.
Yes, yes. But I mean, I don't just shoot M, right? Like for my fine art photography, I shoot mostly medium format. I shoot on my Rolleiflex, and I
Yeah.
shoot on my Hasselblad camera.
Mhm.
But as far as Leica goes, I only have that one Leica lens to use on foreign bodies.
Very good. Yeah.
So
So,
I'm one of those crazy people, I guess.
well, I mean, that was the other interesting thing I liked about your last video and your dedication to one lens for 8 years, as you said in your video. Um,
Right,
and then
right.
also shooting wide open, as much as possible.
I was determined. I was like, I'm going to master this baby. People are gonna call me the Nocti Queen or something, you know. And it's been a journey. Because at first it was like everyone's experienced, it's very hard to focus at 0.95, right? Like even when you're breathing, like you could shake the camera and then you're out of focus.
Yeah.
So it took some time to actually nail the focus, especially with rangefinders. It's hard. And I wear contact lenses, so my eyes get dry and then I can't see clearly. Just a lot of issues with that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I'm getting the hang of it now.
So
Finally, after 8 years.
that's probably a good place to go and look at some of the photographs.
Yeah.
Let me let me see whether I can actually do some screen sharing here because I've got the photo.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I included some of these shots. These are shot on my M6, I think. Yeah, M6 Tri-X, I think. So you'll find that I actually shoot a lot of cars because when I was doing international trade and shipping, I used to handle a lot of cars, and I handled quite a bit of the exotic cars, back to Germany or Italy or France or something like that. So I've always had this fascination with cars. Not that I'm super knowledgeable about cars and stuff like that. I can appreciate, that how they look, their designs and stuff like that. So um I was going to a lot of car events and I would photograph cars in different settings.
Did you
So this was
get,
shot
did you get to drive them as well?
sometimes and sometimes I get to sit in like the supercars like a Pagani, or a Ferrari, and I wouldn't dare to drive some of them because they're like millions of dollars. They're very expensive cars. Um, but I got to enjoy them as a passenger, and yeah, I had some pretty cool experiences doing that. Um, but so yeah, so these car shots that I included were shot with my M6, and my M6 was my very first M camera that I got to use with my Noctilux. So
I like it.
you could,
I like the way you framed this. What one? I love your framing with all these photographs, and I like the way you've
thank
managed to
you.
get a panorama shot out of this, a portrait panorama.
Right, right.
And I thought that was really fascinating. Did
That
you
was
see
fun.
this angle straight away, or how do you visualize these things before you take the photograph?
So when I know that I am at a setting where I'm shooting, I'm always hunting for the shot, right? So when I'm on vacation, sometimes I'm not consciously looking for a shot, so then I'm just like oblivious. But then when I'm shooting, I am always hunting, and I could be walking around, turning my head around, and I just see it. Then I just capture the moment. So that's what a lot of these shots come about.
Yeah.
So these people, they were sitting there. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Um, but with rangefinders, sometimes you have that parallax issue. It's not crazy. It's not a very severe issue with the M system, but like let's say like on my Rolleiflex, the parallax issue is huge. So then you kind of have to adjust for for your framing, right? Because then if I had been, you know, a little higher, the people's heads would be cut off, right?
Yeah. And you're shooting
So
film, so you've taken the shot and you've got no idea what you got.
exactly, exactly. I'm just like, okay, I hope I got the shot. We'll find out in a week when I get my film back, you know.
Yeah. Shall we move on
Yeah.
to the next one?
Yes, please. So yeah, same. I mean, these are all just shot with my M6 on Tri-X, I think. That's one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
Next one.
Yes, and again,
So I
shooting film, you
Mhm.
still have no. I think we have to remind viewers that this in the film region, you don't know what you've shot until you get the film back.
You just have what you think you see through the viewfinder, right?
Yeah.
And you hope that's what you captured, pretty much. Um, Yeah, like for example, this shot, I was going to another car event, and a friend of mine was working at the Beverly Hills Pagani dealership. So I was riding with him going to the event, and it was very dark. It was like 5 in the morning. We're driving the vehicle to the event. And I love the Pagani because I love the designs, the shape, especially the shape of the mirror. It looks so cool, right? So then
It's like
I had to
someone's
get a shot.
sunglass.
Uh, right, I had to take a shot of the mirror, but you know we were in the car driving. Um, I was very shaky, so I wasn't sure if that was going to be in focus at all. But I just took it anyway, and it's kind of in focus.
Well, I guess that's a good thing about film as well. It's a bit more forgiving than digital. You find?
Exactly. Exactly. Definitely. I feel the same.
Yeah, I find with your photographs, besides the first impact, I find that I can stare at your photograph and then look for more stuff in it. So I did see this photograph, but I didn't pay too much attention to it until now when I start looking at it. And I thought, yeah, it could be someone's eye, it could be sunglasses,
Right. Right.
someone looking back at you type thing.
Exactly. And actually, when I was looking through the viewfinder, I saw myself in that mirror.
Ah,
Yeah. But you see that you don't see me in the mirror
yeah,
after
that's right.
actually taking a shot. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know if this was a successful image, but I mean, it's kind of cool. So
That's where the parallax issue comes into it, doesn't it? What you
exactly.
see and what the actual camera sees is something slightly different.
Exactly, exactly. So something for people to keep in mind, I guess. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So another film shot with M6 at the same event. It started raining, so it was cool to capture the raindrops. Um, yeah,
So that's a
just
Pagani.
it's a Pagani. Yep.
Is that a US brand or
It's an Italian brand.
Italian brand? We
Yeah.
have
And
we have Australian manufacturers using Italian names to make kit cars. That's why I asked, whether
gotcha.
whether it's manufactured in Italy or
Yes, yes. And these are like multi-million dollar cars.
that's
Just crazy.
yeah.
But if you had a chance, you could look at the Pagani car designs and they're all just very, very ornate. Even the dials inside the cars, the the mirrors, you know, they look different. One thing I love about photography, and I always tell people that I use photography as a tool to share what I see. So while I do love photography, I love the ability of sharing what I see with other people.
Yeah.
So this was photographed in Rome when I was on a photo walk with Leica Society International. And I don't know if you're familiar with that organization.
Yes.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
right. So they have events, in different parts of the world annually. So last year, they had an event in Rome, and I joined them, and we were walking around, and I saw this couple just being really cute um, next to the river, and I just had to take a photo of them. And afterwards, I was like, "Hey, like I could give you guys the photos if you guys like it." They were like, "Yeah, sure." So we connected, and we're now friends on like social media. And what I love about another part of photography is using it as a tool to make new friends, right? So now that I'm friends with them, I found out that they just recently got married, and I just felt, I was able to witness and capture this special moment for them, and I was able to send them this photograph as a gift. So that was pretty special for me.
Fantastic. And on that photo walk, where did you sort of capture the image and then talk to them, or how did that happen?
I was like, I went up to them at first because they were already like kissing and like touchy feely, and I didn't want to be a creep and be like, not say anything and start photographing them, right?
Yeah.
um and I think, and I've gotten people telling me that it's probably easier for me as a woman to go up to people and ask them to take their photographs than a man doing that. And my success rate is usually pretty high. People say, "Oh yeah, sure. Like if you want to take photos of me, great. Just give me the photos, right?"
Yeah.
So I did go up to them and say, "Hey, like, do you guys mind? You guys are looking so cute together. I'm just going to snap a few photographs of you guys." And they were like, "Oh, we're so flattered. Okay." And then, so yeah.
Yeah, but once you got the dialogue going, well, then you can ask them to pose us a little bit, as well.
Exactly,
Capture the
exactly.
pattern. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. I think it might be a little rude if I don't ask them in advance and just start snapping their photos, and they'd be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Especially if they were like kissing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's this creep?
That's true. I mean, I'll probably do a combination of both. Obviously, street photography is really interesting. You can get people sort of unawares,
Right,
as long as the image is still pleasing, as
right,
opposed to invoking some sort of a feeling that is unpleasant, either for a viewer or for the participant.
for sure.
But then when I can ask someone, then obviously it's a different type of photograph, but you often get much better results.
Right.
Mm.
I mean, I have to be honest, I am not a street photographer. I can't just zone focus at 0.95, walking down the street and getting amazing street photographs. Like that's not me. Um, I use my camera as a tool to make friends with people. So when I see special moments, I go up to the people and ask them, can I take your photograph? You guys keep doing whatever you guys were doing. And I'll send you guys the photos afterwards.
Yeah,
But you guys are just looking really cute. So,
yeah.
you know,
And you're right. I
that's
mean,
my approach.
and like you say, because you're using the Noctilux 0.95
Right.
shallow depth of field, you're not going to get the shot unless you stay still.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And sometimes hold my breath too.
it's true. That's a good shot.
Yeah. Thank you. So this was part of the same photo walk. I saw these two Italian men walking, and I was like, wow, they look so cool. Um, but they didn't speak English, right? So I was like, hey, really excitedly, can I take your photograph? They were like, don't know what you're saying. And then so I held up my camera, pointed at it, like, hey, camera, and then you, okay, you know, like that. And they were like, okay. So I was like pointing to the guy on the left, can you put your elbow, elbow on the guy? And then they just did it.
Fantastic.
And they let me take their photograph. And I was like, do you want the photo? I could email it to you or something. But they didn't understand what I was saying. They were like, okay, bye. And they just walked away,
Yeah. That's
which is fine.
yeah. It's yeah, the colors, so the film that you're using here?
No, this is digital. It's my M10P Safari.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
great colors, great editing.
thank you. This is also the same photo walk. This little girl was just hanging out with her brother and her parents, and she was so cute. So I was like, can I take a photo of her? They were like, yeah, sure. And she just posed for me. And then the dad afterwards was like, oh, I would love to have her photos. We're trying to get her into a modeling agency. I was like, oh, great. Here are her photos. Maybe you could submit some of these.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, photographing photographing children or younger people is can be a challenge. I don't know the
for
answer to
sure.
that other than making sure that the parents are nearby and getting their permission.
Exactly.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my friends, a lady friend, who's a photographer. She wanted to photograph a young child, and the mother was there, so she asked the mother and took some photographs and whatever, and then was walking away, and then the father sort of ran up to her and said, "No, delete all those photographs."
Wow. Okay.
Uh, you get all sorts of situations.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, like you said, I think it's you have to be even more careful with the kids, right? Like, 'cause I mean, the world is pretty crazy nowadays. People
Mm.
don't know what you're gonna do with these pictures, right? Um, so I always make sure that, I'm very respectful and I ask the parents, hey, like I'm so and so, here's my YouTube channel. I'm not a creep, I promise. Here's my contact information. I'm gonna take photos of your kids and I can send the photos to you guys. Would that be okay?
Mm.
And 95% of the time I get a yes. So this image and the next two images are all related. So this is the picture that I took of this woman just sitting there and looking really cool. And the lighting was amazing. So I just had to capture it. And of course, I went up to her as well. And this was in Rome. I said, hey, not really thinking if they speak English or not. I just assume everybody would understand me, even if I'm in a foreign country. And if they can't understand me, I just point, I use body language to communicate, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you look really beautiful in this lighting. Can I just take a photo of you? And she said, yes. So if you could go to the next photograph. So that's my friend captured this image of me taking a picture of her.
I was
And
wondering
then
about
he, right. And then the next photograph, um, then my friend captured an image of her
Yeah,
smiling.
connecting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like that. And I appreciated these two photos that my friend captured because it just reminded me of this fun day that we had.
Yeah. It's good getting the backstory, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. For sure. So we were walking around in Italy, and I saw this really, really old, cool looking barber shop, and he was the barber, and of course I had to go in there and be like, "Can I take your photograph?" And he didn't understand me. And again, I show him my camera, pointed at it, "Can I take your photograph?" And then he said he gave me a thumbs up but then he kept grabbing me. So if you could go to the next photo, he wanted to take a photograph with me, right? I said, no, no, I want to take your photograph. But he said, he pointed, can we take a photograph together first? So then my friend took this photograph of us first. Then I got to take his photograph.
Yeah, look, I've found that also, where people, particularly if in an unusual situations, people want to be photographed with you being unusual in their environment.
I
So
guess so. I guess so.
when I've been riding my motorcycle in foreign countries and weird places
Uh-huh.
and stuff, people want selfies, with you in
Right.
your gear. So, you having two cameras around your neck. And
Yep.
yeah, this old barber obviously wants to photograph with a young girl. So
So now I'm thinking back, like, where was this barber shop? And maybe I could send this photo to him, or in the photo I took of him, that would be kind of cool. But I kind of forgot where we were. We were just, you know, roaming around randomly. So it'd be cool to find him again. Anyway, yeah. So I took this photograph at Leica Women's Photo Summit in Miami last year.
okay,
And I think it's really cool that Leica is trying to get more women photographers to use Leica gear. So now, at least in the US, they have this Leica Photo Women's Summit annually. And they have speakers and we have discussions and then we have like photo opportunities. So then at this event, it was maybe 25 Leica photographers, female photographers gathering together, and we just had different props and stuff like that, and we were photographing each other. And I was looking around for my shot. I saw this photographer holding up this disco ball. I was like, wait, hold still. And then
that
I captured this image.
well, that brings up an interesting point. I know when I look at my viewers' stats on YouTube, I think
Mhm.
male is 92% viewers, 8% women. Uh,
Okay.
what are your stats being a female photographer?
It's 99% men. I'm just like, there's gotta be other Leica women photographers. Are they just maybe I don't know if my content's just not interesting enough for them or something. Um, which is a shame because I really, really wish to get more female photographers into Leica, or at least more female Leica photographers to come out and admit that they shoot Leica as well. I don't know where the fear is with that, but I do have to say, as a female photographer that promotes Leica online, um, I do get quite a few crazy feedbacks and comments on my YouTube channel. Crazy meaning in a negative way.
And that's from males or from females or males, I presume, if it's 99%.
I guess exactly. I would assume they're mostly from men. And I would get comments like, "Did you ask your husband's permission to use his Leicas?"
Really?
Or yeah, I get comments like that. Or I get comments like, must be nice to have a sugar daddy to buy you all these toys. And I was surprised to get them at first, but eventually I'm just like, okay, whatever. I tune them out because you're on the internet. You expect to get crazy comments and opinions from random people you don't know. So, and I guess that's just part of the game.
Yeah, and I guess like you say, I think it's a challenge that women face more than guys. I know on my channel, I would say 99% of the comments are positive in some manner or form. And
Mhm.
you have, I probably have the 1% where they complain about the content and how shit I am at making videos. And
I do get that as well.
I marvel at that they spent the time to watch it.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because literally, I think 2 videos ago, I got this comment from this one guy saying, "Oh, why are you shooting in 24p? You should be shooting in 60p." And at like 3 minutes and 2 seconds into your video, like this edit was bad. And I was like, wow, for someone who sounds like who doesn't like my video, you're really taking the time to analyze my video and telling me like, you know, like at what point of the video that you hated the most. So that was kind of crazy.
How do you respond to those?
I just I would get really upset at first, but I think I've gotten over that because you just can't please everyone. So I just say thank you. Thank you for investing your time in the future in the growth of my channel.
Yeah.
And I say that, and then they stop responding, right? Like I try to respond with something positive nowadays because there's just so much negativity out there. I don't need to add on top of that.
I agree. I usually just give them a heart, a thumbs up, and say thank you for watching.
Right, right.
Leave it at that.
Exactly. So this was in Wetzlar. Well, not in Wetzlar, like in the city close to Wetzlar, last year. Also on another event with Leica Society International. Super fun. We got to visit Wetzlar, but there was one day where they took us outside Wetzlar to this small town, and we were just walking around, taking photos of each other. And my friend here, Sean, he just dresses so interestingly, you know, with
Ooh.
his hat. So
Yeah.
I had to photograph him. I was like, you know what, just don't move, just let me get your photograph. So yeah.
So color coordinated is like a reporter.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Super cool. And so I send this photograph to you because I wanted to make a point, I guess, about how sharpness is not everything. Because if you really zoom in on the woman's face, the woman in red, she's not tack sharp. But I really like this composition. And I was just looking around. I turned around and, you know, the shot was in front of me. So I had to quickly take the shot um, before they moved. So yeah, the woman in red is not tack sharp, but I think this composition works.
Yeah, look, and that's a good point. Um, because sharpness is all relative as well. You know, when you take a shot with your iPhone, for example, uh,
Right,
everything is in focus, whether it be foreground, midground, or background. But there's
right,
nothing to distinguish between what's sharp and what's not because it's just all homogeneous, uniform. Where
exactly.
here, because of the lens and its bokeh, both foreground and background, all of a sudden your subject there looks spot on, super sharp relative to everything else that's going on.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I've got lots of lenses. I've had the fortune of being able to just invest in a whole bunch of Leica equipment. So I've got
Oh,
the Noctilux 1.2, the re-released one.
oh
And,
wow, okay.
I use that for a friend's wedding, and I found the same thing trying to get it the focus. And at 1.2, it's actually quite soft
I agree. I agree.
compared to the 0.95.
Yep.
But if I chose my foreground and background well enough, then even photographing the wedding couple, even though they were slightly off focus or soft, that contrast between bokeh and themselves was fine.
Right, right.
Yeah.
For sure. Yes, I agree with what you're saying. But by itself, I think the 1.2 is a softer lens than the 0.95.
Yeah.
And that's why I tried it and I was like, oh, this is pretty soft actually.
Yeah. It's,
I
it's
mean, so, like sharpness isn't everything, but I want it to be sharp enough, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I think over the last 3 years or whatever, because as I've had the fortune to work with a local camera dealer here in Sydney,
Oh,
and
okay.
he's been basically collecting and selling and trading cameras for the last 30 years. So he's now recognized extensively around Australia, but also around the world for sourcing Leica equipment and Leica lenses and every other type of camera under the planet.
Wow.
And so I've been able to borrow a few lenses from him from time to time to do reviews, some of the older vintage Leicas and stuff.
Nice.
So what I found was, particularly when the lenses are really old and there's fungus growing inside them, and then they, lose their contrast, and
Right.
so I've had this opportunity to sort of focus on sharpness and uniformity and contrast, and then working with lenses that are really soft and weird. So I know what I found myself focusing on sharpness all the time, and then everything else that wasn't sharp wasn't good enough. But then now I'm sort of starting to realize that you can use the faults or within the lens or softness, whatever, as an effect in
Right.
as part of your composition.
Right.
And
Definitely.
particularly with now, obviously, with technology, a lot more time is spent in post-processing in light,
Right.
where you can take something that looks pretty ordinary and
Right.
make it actually look more spectacular.
Definitely.
I've got a
For
much
for
more
sure.
I've got much more appreciation. Actually, on that point, also while we're here,
Hmm.
um, what I found was once I started getting back into YouTube, I basically had to relearn photography from scratch. Uh,
Mm.
Being older and starting off photography with film, all my photography was around film, and even going into
Right.
digital, I was hesitant to go into digital. My only digital cameras were the small compact ones, and my first full frame digital was the Nikon D700. So that, back in 2010 or whatever.
Okay.
Um, and then and I never really got results that I was happy with, to tell you the truth.
Mm.
And it's only once I started my YouTube channel, 3 or 4 years ago, and really built it up and started my journey into Leica and other cameras and lenses and everything, that I've, developed my skill set, 10 times what I had before.
Wow.
Just
Okay.
relearning everything from scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think technology is great, but I personally am not a tech savvy person, and I hate post-production. I'll
Uh,
say that, and you have it recorded. I hate post-production. I was film trained. I also started with film. I didn't grow up with digital, right? Like digital didn't really come around till I was in college or so. Um, so I just uh, always, just learn to take photos that I want them to look like. I don't want to spend time like photoshopping stuff because I'm a shooter. I want to be outside shooting, not sitting behind my computer editing or making fake images or something. Um, so I think it's okay if you're film trained or you're traditionally, analog trained. Just shoot it the way you see it, and I think that's how I always approach photography. I try not to mess around with my images too much
Yeah.
in post, unless if there's like hair in the face or something that I just want to remove. And maybe I increase the contrast here and there, but that's about it.
Yeah, I must admit, I enjoy taking the photographs. Whenever I'm feeling down, I want to be inspired, and I try and pick up one of my cameras and just go out and take a photograph. I usually feel better.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think it's hard to feel inspired sitting behind the computer and like edit.
Fall
I
asleep.
don't know. Maybe some people find inspiration and peace doing that maybe, but that person is not me. Yeah. So this was part of that same trip to Wetzlar. We were all walking around. This guy was looking at his light meter, and I just thought it was a really, really cool shot, so I photographed him.
Looks like
Um,
Einstein.
yeah, Einstein. Or have you seen Back to the Future? He
Yes,
reminded me
that's
of.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's very good.
exactly him. So
Yeah,
I was like, oh my gosh, Back to the Future.
that's right. Measuring the flux report, the flux thingy bob.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so my boyfriend, this is my boyfriend Kevin, he makes leather goods and he makes like leather goods for cameras, straps, bags and stuff like that. And he spent a lot of time training too. So this photograph was taken on his last trip to Zurich to train under this Hermes trained leather craftsman. And so he was there for a 3-day training while I got to tour around the city and have fun with my cameras. So I was just, taking photographs of him working. And also I had time to explore the city. So I also did that and it was fun.
Well, it's a good combo to have a leather craftsman as part of your
For
relationship.
sure. For sure. And he's made me a bag and made me straps
Nice.
and yeah, so it's been good.
So you'll be able to set up an e-commerce channel on your YouTube channel there.
His bags take a lot of time to make though. He really they take at least a week or two to make if he doesn't do anything else. And everything he hand cuts, hand stitches, everything. Um, I personally don't have that kind of patience.
Yeah.
And I'm not good with my hands like that. I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. You could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So part of that same trip, it was fun that uh, people outside could just walk by and look through the windows and see what people are doing inside the shop,
Yeah.
stitching and stuff. Yeah. Um, yeah, part of the same trip. This was taking on the M11 monochrome. I love the monochrome cameras. And I
So that's the first
composed
one that the first monochrome that you've had, the M11 monochrome?
no. So the M11 monochrome is actually his. I have the M9 monochrome, the original monochrome
Yep.
with a CCD. Um, the technology is so different. When I shoot my M9 monochrome, I don't really check my shots afterwards because the LCD screen on the back
Bad, yeah.
is is not reliable, right? So I'm just basically treating it like a film camera when I shoot the M9.
Mm.
But when I tried his M11 monochrome, I am always just so surprised by the technology and how clear and sharp the LCD screen is on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was this with your Noctilux as well?
Yes. These are all Noctilux
Yeah.
shots that we've shown. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible, you know, the sharpness on the pin. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, People have asked me if I use an EVS or something like that. I didn't used to, and actually I don't use that at all, but I have found that as I age, my vision is not as good as before. And I also wear contact lenses. So my eyes get dry, and after hours of shooting, my eyes are tired. Uh, Focus becomes a real challenge. So that's when I would turn on live view and start shooting that way instead.
Okay.
But usually I just shoot with the rangefinder
Yeah, I have
directly.
EVFs for my digital M's, but I don't use them.
Right.
I much prefer to use the rangefinder, or depending on the situation, because of the choice of the lenses that I have, sometimes I'm just using zone focus and
Right.
guess what the distance is, particularly in wide angle lenses.
Right. And especially when you've shot enough, you kind of just know, right? You're just like, okay,
Yeah. And
yeah,
as you know, said, if you get it slightly out of focus, sometimes it doesn't matter as long as your composition uh, has enough there to tell the story.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so this one was shot very recently. This shot in maybe 4 or 5 shots after this one. So we were in New York for the Leica store New York opening, that happened last month. And a few of us got together, and we were shooting this short film. Um, and so I was getting some behind the scenes shots. I was the only person shooting an M because they were all shooting the SL3.
Mhm.
And I was very unsure of the focus, to be honest, because it was really, really dark. I know here it looks bright, but when I was actually there, it was dark, especially when the lights weren't on.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see anything through the rangefinder. Like I saw nothing.
Yeah.
Um, so luckily the live view really saved me. So I was able to get some shots in focus at least.
Yeah.
And I think they turned out okay.
They're great. His eyes and everything. The lighting is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like
Mm.
this one. Um, and sometimes you're just guessing, like when it's really, really dark, I just like, okay, I think this is in focus. Click.
And have the motorbike in the lift and everything is most unusual.
Exactly. It's a very New York thing I found.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And these are all part of the series, so you could just go through them. Yep.
Yeah, the lighting is well, just go by here. The lighting is really important
Yep.
here, isn't it? Uh, Working out where your subject is and trying to get the right lighting on the subject, and then everything
Definitely.
that goes around that.
And the bokeh is amazing, right? I'm like, wow, the lights are so pretty in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these following shots are what I think are snapshots, but because I have the lens, um, it makes these shots look more interesting because of the beautiful bokeh. But if I had taken the same shots with my phone, it would just look very
Nothing there.
average.
Yeah. Is that a
So I
live?
just, yeah, these are real ducks walking around. This was in Zurich actually when my boyfriend was still training in the workshop and I was just roaming around on the streets on my own and I saw these ducks and I was like, wow, this is pretty great lighting.
Yeah.
And it was just standing there like posing for my shot anyway. So I was like, I took the opportunity and grabbed the shot.
I think that's the last shot, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. There was a question probably way back. Was what keeps you excited about life?
The good things in life keep me excited. And whether that be photography or music also played a huge part in my life. I was a classically trained pianist.
Huh?
So that was three. So before photography, there was my piano, and I always thought I was going to get into piano and become, I don't know, a classical pianist. Um, but my family convinced me that I was going to be hungry, being a pianist. Um, so then I became a photographer, which was not that much better.
So you just change your diet and still hungry.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but photography was a little different. I thought I was gonna get into filmmaking, making movies. So if, I wasn't actually shooting, at least I could work on some sets or something like that. So there's some money to be made there, way more money than being just a photographer or like a pianist. At least that's what I thought, right? But maybe I thought wrong.
Yeah. So
I still went into the corporate world anyway, so.
yeah. So when you're making your videos, what cameras are you using to do your videoing?
So currently, I have a mixture of different things. My boyfriend is also a photographer, and he's also a filmmaker. So we are shooting. You will see that comparing my different videos, the qualities might look different because they were all shot on different cameras, um, depending on how uh easy it is at a time, or where we're going. If we could bring the red camera or our Fuji, I am shooting on the Fuji XS20. We also have a red Epic Komodo. Also, the Leica store video in that we shot in New York that was shot on the SL2S. So a mixture of different things, um, which is cool to experiment. But for me, as an editor, I edit 99% of my own videos. It's it's pretty tough because then I'm trying to figure out like the different settings and the LUTs to use and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, that I hate editing, right? So I'm just like,
Yeah.
God, I
Yeah.
go crazy. I don't want to spend time like having to deal with this. I want to be out shooting, not editing my videos or photos.
Because the quality of your videos is outstanding. I looked,
Really?
yeah, well, I noticed,
Some
I
of
think
them, some of
some of the recent ones
them.
where I think you had the interview in Switzerland or something. I'm not sure. Somewhere overseas.
Oh, in Belgium,
In
Belgium.
Belgium, in Belgium. So the
Yeah, yes.
videography there, so that was, I mean, all the close-ups and all the cuts and everything else there is just outstanding. It's so professional.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's taken a long time and a lot of struggles and hair pulling and sitting alone in the dark, like, "Ah, I don't want to do this."
Mm. I
Um,
mean, that's
but
the editing side, but it also when you're actually filming, because you're trying to get all the cuts and all the angles
yes,
in
yep.
anticipation of the video.
The key is, and I have to say that when I go out on a shoot on location like that, I kind of have a brief idea in my head, but not like a solid shot list of what to get, right? But I always try to get as much footage as I can because then you could try to make up a story based on the footage that you have and then just, insert shots here and there. Um,
Because you're
and
doing
also
you're doing the interview at the same time and trying to do the filming.
well, so my boyfriend would join me on some of these
Okay.
shoots, and then so he's shooting and I'm interviewing, for
Yeah.
example, or
Yeah.
he's, helping with stuff and then I'm shooting at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's extremely difficult trying to do everything on your own. And I'm sure you know this, right? Especially on location. You're asking the questions, you're interviewing the person, you're asking them to sit there and looking at one place so they don't look weird in your video when their eyeballs keep like shifting,
Yeah.
right? Meanwhile, I'm on the side trying to get footage of them talking too. So it's pretty crazy.
And you're trying to get the audio.
Exactly, exactly. Oh my gosh, audio is another beast.
Yeah.
I shoot myself.
Especially when
Why
there's
did I put
wind,
myself into this?
when you're outside in any sort of windy conditions.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Or any kind of interference, your audio's going in and out. You're like, oh, I can't hear him now. Like, can you
Mm.
say that again? It's challenging. I'm
Crazy.
sure you know.
Crazy. What's your message or what's your learnings for anyone wanting to get into photography or YouTubing or anything like that?
I would say that not just for photography or YouTube, for anything that anyone wants to accomplish, start today. Just start. Just don't think. Because I'm a pretty OCD person myself. I'm a big planner. If I don't have plans, for something that I want to do, I usually don't do them until my plan is pretty solid. But usually that means I don't get to do them until, a long time later.
Yeah.
And from COVID and friends passing away and stuff like that, I've learned that our tomorrows are never guaranteed, right? Like we live as if we have forever on this earth, but that's not true. I could go out on the street and then something happens to me, right? And like it's your life is not guaranteed. And I've realized that I definitely don't want to be on the last day of my life and regretting things not happen, because I didn't take action or because I was lazy or because I didn't finish planning something. So, I was waiting for the perfect day to start this thing, but I never got it started. So, anything that anyone wants to do, start today and then you'll figure out the rest later, would be my message.
That's a good message. One thing that I do also when I'm trying to sort of encourage people to do anything is, get a source of information that you can trust, find a mentor. And
Right,
I think in today's world, electronic form of education is so important. I guess that's where YouTube comes into it. That, you can basically ask
right.
a question and then do a search and you can educate yourself in anything.
Exactly. Exactly. Things are so much easier nowadays, right? I'm always so grateful that I am alive at this time and age today, and not like back in the days when they didn't have electricity or something. Like I can't even imagine that, not having a toilet in the house. Like how do they go to the bathroom, like
Mm.
even like little things like that were so much more challenging back in the days. And today we have everything literally at our fingertips, so we should stop complaining
Yeah.
and just make things happen, right? Just do it.
Let's do it. That's probably a good note to finish, eh?
For sure.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming and on board and participating in this interview.
Thank
Um,
you so much for having me.
and I'm glad I reached out to you. Um,
Yeah, me too.
um, because even you as a YouTuber, you present as you do on YouTube, so people start to imagine your life and who you are. But
Right.
when you have an opportunity to talk a bit more about yourself in an interview process, I think a lot more comes out, a lot more about your background and who you are, and I think it just adds to the interests around you. So I found this
Thank you.
interesting, so I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was pleasantly surprised and shocked and was like, why would he want to interview me? But okay, I'm so flattered. Thank you.
And so this is the first time someone's reached out to interview you, or?
I've had like maybe a few in the past, but that was I was I never really I think it's also a confidence issue too. In my constant battles with like receiving negative comments on YouTube, and I'm just like, maybe I shouldn't come out and say too much stuff
Yeah.
because I don't want to get backlash when I do say stuff. Then someone else will have other comments to say about me. But you know what? I think I should listen to my own message and just go for it and just do it and not think too much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got the strengths and the confidence to do that.
Thank you.
I'd like to just say really thank you to you, Charlice, for joining the interview. If anyone, if you're discovering Charlice for the first time, Noctigirl, subscribe to your channel.
Nocti after the Noctilux, not naughty, which I
Not
get
naughty.
quite a bit.
It's my
They're
Australian
like,
accent.
naughty girl.
Noctigirl.
What kind of channel is that? It's about photography, I swear.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so if you haven't been to Griniflix Adventure 8 YouTube channel or the first time here, then like, is it? Yep. Subscribe.
Like,
I'll have the links here up on the, so you'll be able to subscribe to both our channels.
yeah.
Thanks again for watching. Look forward to seeing you on the next video, and thanks again. See you later.
Thank you.